Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Right now, we're going to have our tech leaders panel. Please give a huge round of applause.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if the mic is working. It is? Yeah? Thanks. So, hi, everyone. My name is Miguel Migalhães. I'm the head of content and partnerships at The Next Big Idea. We are a Portuguese media company that covers startups and business overall. And the reason I'm here this year is because next month we are releasing our new TV show in an important news channel here in Portugal called SIC Notícias. And so here is an opportunity to learn from the best. And so I'm really glad I joined this panel. And with me, I have a quite diverse panel. I have Luís, which is the CEO of Vodafone Portugal. I have Cristina, which is one of the main investors at Indico Capital, and Celso Martinho, which is the director of engineering at Cloudflare. So we have infrastructure, we have investment and startups, and we have connectivity and security. So we have all the tools to discuss what means tech leadership and the current status of the tech industry. And actually my first question, because it's a bit impossible to escape it, is if right now in your daily jobs, is there a day where you don't talk about AI? And I will start with Luís. Yeah.
Is it working? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Hardly any day without talking about AI. So that said, AI is also in many of aspects of how we operate as a company is in the early stages of its life. So I think that's not different from all companies. But we do see it as a huge opportunity to drive efficiencies, to make processes work better, have better relationships with customers. So a huge opportunity ahead of us.
So hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. I remember this being a dream when I was at Technical. So very good to be inside. So AI, of course, I feel I live in everything is about AI, especially because at Indico, of course, companies are really trying to understand which industries and how AI can be applied to build the businesses of the future. Then there's also the companies that are trying to just put AI in their pitch deck, hoping that will make them look better. Not what we want to do, but happens a lot. And funny enough, my last company was an AI and machine learning company targeting customer service. Before AI was cool, this was 2018 to 21. And that company was acquired by Zendesk, which is an American multinational. And now it's Zendesk, and we do customer service software. Everything is about how do we invent the future of customer service with an AI first lens. So there's few things in my life that are not about AI, including the fact that my life partner has DeepSeek running in our garage. So as you can imagine, even when I'm home, there's lots of things about AI.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here as well. At Cloudflare, obviously, lots of AI, maybe too much AI. From two perspectives, I would say. One is because we're an AI provider, so we're actually building AI APIs, AI products that then our customers use to solve their problems. And also from the perspective of being users of AI ourselves. So how do we transform the company? How do we automate certain stuff at the company? And how we make use of AI for doing that. So yes, lots of AI. I was actually messaging folks from my teams because we're, as we speak, about to launch a bunch of new APIs using AI, so yes.
Venturing, and now I have a question for each of you, and starting with Luís. In Vodafone and how it's present in our day-to-day, it's in the TV we watch every day, it's in our internet, and there's then a range of services for companies. How has AI over these last few years impacted the way you looked at those areas, and how exactly, if you can give some examples, has helped those services that get to us be better or get better?
Let me start to say that trying to find tools to automate, to bring more efficiency across many aspects of how we operate is not something that came 1 or 2 or 3 years ago. AI as a fundamental tool transforming more deeply what we do and how we operate is a more recent aspect. I'll give you a couple of examples on how AI is helping us in some of our areas. It's helping us on how we provide services together with our customers, to start with. In particular, I give you an example. It's we use mobile private networks, particularly together with large industrial customers or large sites where the ability to detect having sensors, being video sensors, being other types of sensors, connected through very fast networks, particularly with 5G networks, with very low latency. And then with a layer of service that it's looking at all those signals and using artificial intelligence also to process what they are reading and then drawing conclusions, next steps, monitoring, alarms, this type of things is something that it already exists. We are doing that with some Portuguese industrial companies. And that's one aspect. Other aspect of how we use AI, to give you a sense, is, for example, in interactions with customers, we use AI to process sentiment of how customers are communicating with us or chatting with us. And we use this type of models to also drive conclusions and actions from our side. I could give you many more examples in the life of a telecom company, but I would say that it's just a beginning. We'll have lots more if in a year's time we come and have another conversation. There will be many more.
Cristina, you were just mentioning that right now every pitch deck that you receive, there's a lot of startups putting AI there just to get more attention. What kind of framework have you been using to identify, even if we are in early days and everything is changing on a weekly basis, what kind of framework have you been trying to utilize to identify, okay, this is a way of using AI that makes sense and this is a way of using AI that doesn't make any sense to me?
That's very easy for me. Like, I think first of all, my bullshit detector has been trained over the past years. But honestly, like, AI doesn't make sense just for the sake of AI. I think what we need to do, and the question I ask is, what problem are these people solving with AI? Like, maybe there was a solution that was possible before, and now with AI it's easier, we can do things more advanced. But the fundamental question when you're starting a company is which problem are you solving? I'm sure, like Celso, they were using AI like when AI was not fancy, cool, because there were like models that would provide a way better way based on data to solve particular issues. It's the exact same thing. Like, start with a problem. AI for the sake of AI doesn't mean anything. So that's not impressive to an investor, to be honest.
And security has been always an important feature and something that every company paid attention to. But I feel that over these past few years with AI and data and everything that's being built, it became an even greater factor that everyone looks up to, even as a competitive advantage. So how has that shaped the way that, even based in Portugal, and you were already telling me before that you guys basically work for other markets, but how has that shaped the way that you work with clients and how actually they view the services that you provide?
Yeah. So just to follow up on what Cristina said, AI before AI was cool was called machine learning, and before that was called scripting. Those were forms of AI. But anyway, I think fundamentally, when we look at security, I don't think AI changes the fundamentals. I mean, Cloudflare has basically 3 categories of security products. One is denial of service protection. The other one is bot protection or bot management, kind of detecting automated traffic. And the third one is the firewall, which is something we use to protect our customers from bad actors exploiting software bugs. And none of this changed fundamentally with AI. What happened was two things. One, it's now much easier and much faster for bad actors to find software bugs or to find ways to exploit vulnerabilities in our customers' systems or anyone's systems. And the other thing that also changed drastically is this exponential effect. So everything's much faster now. Everything moves much faster. And obviously we need to adjust to that. Luckily, we were already in the game. We were already detecting automated. I don't know if you know this, but we estimate that about 50% of the internet traffic in the world is not generated by humans. It's generated by machines. So what happens is that number is increasing, and it's becoming harder and harder to know if there's an actual human behind the request. So I think those are the challenges, and obviously AI also brought a lot more awareness to customers when it comes to requiring security protection. So that's the way the business is changing.
Luís, no, with you. Cristina was talking about startups and how they can develop solutions, but when you are this big corporation like Vodafone present in many markets, you can't directly just invest in innovation. You need to have some sort of balance between the stability that you need on the infrastructure that you manage and the solutions that you can deploy. So now more on the topic of leadership and how do you manage processes. How can you find this balance when you are working with your teams and ensuring that at the same time you can be innovative, but on the other side you need to make sure that the systems that you have in place don't fall down just because you are testing something new?
Let me start by saying I disagree. I don't think there is a trade-off of doing innovation or not. It's absolutely crucial, even more in the current context, that innovation is part of every company DNA, and in particular in companies that act in the technology space as we are. We act obviously in the infrastructure layer, but there's much more that goes on top of that infrastructure layer. So innovation is part of our DNA. We are always investing as well in small companies. I mean, it's not our DNA to just invest, but we also invest in companies. Well, we should also invest in funds, exactly. We do have our own research teams as well. It's a pity that we don't have them in Portugal, but we have them, for example, in our neighbors in Spain. That would be a conversation probably for another forum, why we don't have them in Portugal. But I do believe that the innovation is core of that. We are, and to the point of traffic on machines driving traffic, etc., which I think it's a very interesting aspect. Probably Vodafone is part of the blame. We actually are the biggest IoT in the world. We are the biggest providers of IoT, and IoT means Internet of Things, which means objects communicating with other objects or with humans or with different things. And that's one of the areas that probably is producing some of the traffic. It's not just that, I know. But it's one of the areas. We are exploring things in the area, for example, of satellite communications, which we recently announced. We also, today I believe we showed something very interesting with the usage of drones and artificial intelligence to, in the case of a submarine cable is cut, to use drones, aerial drones, so not undersea drones, but aerial drones, to still send communications temporarily using lasers connecting between different drones to continue to be able to provide connectivity services in an event of something like that. Obviously, it's not something you can keep for a long time, but it's an example of things that Vodafone specifically works with other partners, because it's very difficult to do innovation by ourselves only. You need to partner with different entities to drive that. But I disagree. I think innovation is crucial. Of course, keeping the networks working 100% of the time is key, and investing in the networks is, if you ask me, we invest 250 million a year in Portugal, just Portugal, and the majority of it is not in innovation. The majority is in the networks and making sure the networks are facing the demand that they face. But we also continue to invest in innovation every year.
Yeah, my idea wasn't to say that it was between one or the other. It was actually how do you manage both sides when you have such a huge infrastructure, but I completely agree with you. Cristina, just before you were mentioning how would you scout startups, my question now was actually with the ones that you already work, how is your approach to managing these startups? Because suddenly when you get into them, there's all these objectives that you have, and that in the business of a VC, there's goals that you need them to achieve in order to justify the investment you made in them. And so my question would be, how do you make sure, or how over these past years as an investor, how do you look at the way that startup founders and investors can have their incentives aligned in order for the relationship to make sense for both sides?
It's a very good question. And first of all, let me explain a little bit what's the business model of a VC. So our business is about us investing in companies and then multiplying the investment by 10, 20, 100x, if possible, in order for us to return the funds to our own investors. Because we have investors that give us money, and our role is to screen and identify the most promising tech companies, give them money, and help them scale. Of course, in this industry, that's why it's called venture capital, there's a lot of risk, meaning most of those companies are going to fail or not achieve the big dream they had when we invested. But first of all, it's very important that when we invest, we really believe that the company is going to pay the fund back. And as investors, our role is to be enablers, is not to replace founders in any way. So that's why teams need to be relatively strong. And that's why founders need to be very open in regards to understanding what are their limitations and being able to find and hire and attract the best people that can fill those gaps. Let me give you a very good example, which represents maybe 80% of the Portuguese companies. Most of the founders are from a technical background, including myself. If you have a technical background, maybe you can build the most amazing product. It's beautiful, it works, like it's the best thing on earth, solves a meaningful problem. But then you have not, and you believe that can change the world, and you can have a category leader company that will become a well-known brand in a particular sector. But you have no idea how to do sales. I mean, you can close a couple of customers, you can do best effort, but there's also a very important thing, which is timing. Maybe you have 10 years to make your company a success and a leader in a particular area. Unless you hire top people in sales, marketing, finance, and so on and so forth, maybe things will work, maybe they won't, but it's a huge risk. So what do? You go around the world and you try to find the most amazing talent that can complement your product engineering design skills and go sell and market things at scale. Usually, it depends a lot. I don't want to give a recipe that I know it doesn't work for every case. But most likely, these people are in the US. That's why I think if you look at Talkdesk, OutSystems, Feedzai, all of the success cases coming out of Portugal, whose founders are have a technical background, most of them, one of the founders went to the US relatively early on, and the sales, marketing teams are primarily based there, at least at an initial stage. So I think investors are not supposed to do the job of the founders. We need to be enablers. We help a lot with fundraising, with telling them where to go. I think maybe the best way, sometimes the best way to help these companies is by introducing them to 3 very good VPs of sales that are in the US. They talk to these people and then they're like, oh, I want to hire this person. Exactly, like, do you understand? So giving them these benchmarks and getting them out of their comfort zone is usually what we need to do as investors. So I'm not like holding them hands, you know, like, and doing the work for them, because most likely those are not the companies we want to back.
Yeah. Celso, my question for you is actually related to how do you manage an engineering team, because especially right now when there's lots of discussion on what's the right way to develop a product and all the things about safety controls and how do you manage performance with having some sort of controls. How do you see that relationship with your team on how you manage the platforms that you have currently?
Yeah, so at Cloudflare, and this is actually true for most places I chose to work with in the past. But we do believe that ideas are important. But what's really important is to ship products. So we give high priority to that. And the way to ship a lot of products and do that at a constant rhythm is you have to have the right culture. And the culture of a company is basically the people you decide to work with. It's nothing else. So I would say it's hard for me to describe how we actually, Cloudflare is known for launching a lot of features every week. If you take a look at our blog, at blog.cloudflare.com, you will be amazed with the number of blog posts we do every week. And most of them are about launching new products. And I think the trick to that is, Luís was talking about the research teams. And we do have a research team as well. But I would say everyone at Cloudflare is a researcher as well, in the sense that we give the team space to determine the way they should work, the way they should build their projects. And that includes things like processes and tools, as long as they keep shipping and as long as they're aligned with the global vision of the company. And I think obviously it's always a trade-off, because the more space you give and the less processes you impose, there are risks with that, and it is a challenge. But I think it kind of works. The other thing we do is we have these innovation weeks over the year. So, you know, back when humans were created, we lived most of the year in peace, but then a lion came after us and we had to run. And I think that is still in the DNA of people. We believe in that. And so we have these innovation weeks where we have the roadmap, the normal roadmap for most of the year, but on innovation weeks, everyone has to ship. And everyone has to ship a lot. And we have a couple of weeks like those every year. So it's kind of a balance between, you know, normal roadmap and extreme stress and having to ship lots of features.
Thank you. It was a great answer. Right now, I wanted to shift our conversation to discuss a bit of Europe, because that's been a great topic over these last few weeks, and how Portugal, being an European country, is also affected by that. But there's been a lot of discussions on how can Europe stay relevant in terms of being a relevant player in the tech industry, especially facing what's happening in the US or in China. And so right now I wanted to ask each of you, have you viewed this relationship, and what kind of things would you like to see solved in order for Europe to remain relevant within this scope? I would start with you.
Okay, it's a very good question. It's one of my concerns. I have a little bit of a pessimistic view, I have to say. I think Europe is obviously losing the train. On technology, it's absolutely obvious. If you see top 100 technology companies, how many in Europe, you'll be very disappointed with that number. Majority in the United States and some in China. This is not just in the tech industry. I see this happening in Europe almost everywhere. There's very few exceptions of very successful companies in the recent years, maybe in the pharmaceutical industry, but very few examples. Europe is losing weight in the global economy in terms of GDP, etc. So the root cause is a matter of a lot of debate. Some people point to excessive regulation, others to lack of investment in fundamental research and in innovation. Others maybe even lack of a thriving venture capital and private equity markets. There's many things, but I think the fundamental aspect is if Europe does not fundamentally change the behavior, where we put more money into research and development and innovation, and we unleash more the ability to innovate, because we often regulate before we even start to innovate. Europe was the first one to launch regulation on artificial intelligence, just to give an example. And there's no artificial intelligence in Europe. It's always coming from outside. And that's the same story if I look at my sector, telecommunications. It's exactly the same story. 25, 30 years ago, Europe was the leading region in terms of telecommunications development. And that has changed over the last few years just because we were typically over-regulated. And then returns on capital become less interesting. Investors look at other opportunities across the globe. Money is not something that it's regionally locked. It's global. Investors look at globally at the opportunities. So that's a fundamental thing that has to change in Europe.
I wanted to take a less pessimistic view, although I agree with everything you said. But I think, and the reason for us, we talk a lot about why is it that we don't have like these big tech companies. Like for us to create a startup, we basically need people, which we have very good, and like that's why Celso is very successful doing what he does, because the Portuguese people also have a DNA of like being curious, agile, very good technically. So it's relatively easy to direct them in a way that they build amazing things in these global tech leaders, which is very interesting. I also have that experience, and I think Portugal just has like a little bit of a hidden gem. So people we have very good, capital not so much. We still don't have, not only in Portugal. In Portugal, we can give these startups the first checks. Like we can have companies raise up to a Series A, 5-10 million euros, and then most likely they need to go abroad. But if we consider the entire Europe, there's still not enough money available to create a success case like Amazon or Google or all of the tech companies. So that's lacking. What do companies do? They go to the US. And then there's another aspect, which is market. I think in the US, the market is big because it's a huge country. In Europe, we have this notion that we are a big market, but good luck trying to scale a company from Portugal to Spain to France to Italy to Germany. Like you need to, it's a step-by-step thing. That's why then we are a little bit behind. On regulation, I always thought, I'm not against regulation in AI. I think that the best way to do that is sector by sector. Because in telecoms, like, okay, there are some rules that need to apply. In banking, the same thing. In healthcare, the same thing. And it's very, very hard to come up with a generic enough regulation for AI. So we are just stuck in discussion mode forever and losing competitive advantage. But at the same time, right now the US is a little bit, I mean, not in bad shape, I was going to say bad shape, but I don't even know which expression to use. And I think in terms of politics, lots of like Trump and Elon Musk and all of these leaders are applying the same short-term mindset that's very common in Silicon Valley. And in these tech companies, everything is about like, I want to do this fast, quickly. The long term doesn't matter. It's all short term. But the society doesn't work like that. And in Europe, we are way more balanced at trying to like protect the people somehow. And I believe there's a lot of technologies and lots of problems that then will be better solved by Europeans because we have these difference and we have these in mind. I'm not saying it's easy. Again, I'm trying to provide a positive view here. But I agree, I think Europe, like, we need to hurry up. We are being left behind. And we have amazing people, amazing talent. Celso, you always go last.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think Luís and Cristina said most of the things I also believe in. So not much else to say. I mean, I'm also not against regulation. I also think that regulation, I look at the regulation that Europe puts out there, especially regulation in tech, and I think it's full of good intentions. The intentions are good, but the execution and the implementation are not so good, because they usually actually block innovation and and they contribute to something that's already a problem in Europe, which is risk aversion. We're culturally risk averse, and so I was actually talking about the AI regulation the other week, and again, all good intentions. We need to do something about the high risks of AI, how people are going to use AI to do, I don't know, deep fakes and changing governments in countries and things like that. Good intentions, but then I see no exceptions for startups. I see a vague definition what is high risk, and I see these diagrams requiring every AI provider to certify every model that they want to use or provide to customers. And if you look at AI companies, I think the only AI company in Europe that's relevant, it's a French company called Mistral, and no one else. So, and this is just an example of how I think we implement regulation the wrong way. But again, I do think regulation has a place, and I actually like regulations for certain businesses. And I like the fact that Europe tries to protect us from basic rights like privacy and social stuff. But it doesn't help with innovation at all. That's what I would say. So, yeah.
And still with you, Celso, and so a question for you still. How do you think that Portugal is completely dependent on we decide in terms of Europe, or is there still some things that we can do as a country in order for in our own ecosystem to improve and to still remain or to be more relevant in this case?
I actually think we're doing fine being able to attract talent and companies to set up base in Portugal. I mean, Cloudflare is an example of that. We're now a big company in Portugal, 400 people working with us, lots of folks from other countries, including America, coming to Portugal and buying houses and living here long term. So we must be doing something right. I do agree with Cristina that we have a little gem here. I don't know if it's as hidden as Cristina thinks, but we definitely have something good happening in Portugal. I would say if there's something we should improve is bureaucracy. It's always a problem. We've gone a long way digitizing lots of things over the last decades, but it's still a pain, especially from folks that come to Portugal and also companies. lots of paperwork, lots of things that should take minutes or days and take months or years. That's something we should improve. Other than that, I'm really optimistic about how we've been able to attract foreign companies and folks from other countries. And I think that's good because that's contagious to all of us. And it actually changes the way we think about businesses and life and risk. So, all good.
Yeah. Cristina, anything to add to Celso's answer?
No, I agree. I agree. I completely agree.
You too, Luís? Anything to add in this?
Yeah, I just would like to say I agree, and I do believe Portugal actually punches well above its weight in this matter. I want to give an example. Vodafone Portugal, we are 1,500 employees. 1/3 of it works for other markets. That's basically saying that we do have a remarkable high quality pool of talent in Portugal, technical talent, but not just technical talent, but given we are in a technical school, it's the relevant to emphasize that point. And I do believe that Portugal is very trendy at the moment, so we do have a huge ability to attract also foreign talent into the market, and I do believe that this combination of local and international talent is something that gives me some optimism, although I'm pessimist about Europe, but some optimism about Portugal.
Yeah.
So, given that we are at the university, and some of you will go to the job markets soon, I think what's preventing more companies, more successful companies to start out of Portugal, and based on the pitch decks that I see, is that sometimes we only see the very obvious problems because we don't have exposure to like the hardcore like problems companies this big have to solve. If you go and work for a few years for Cloudflare or Zendesk or Vodafone, you will find business problems. If you have that mindset, you'll find business problems that are worth solving at a big scale. If you're in your room and you try to think about, or in the shower, and you try to think about like which startup can I build, most likely it's going to be something someone is already doing, but a lot of people already trying to solve or try to solve. And your advantage will come from having a different angle into a very difficult problem to solve. So, I honestly believe this is one of the reasons why there's not more companies that are interesting. It's because we have limited exposure to problems that are worth solving. Yeah. And also the fact that Portugal is a services economy, most likely. So we do a lot of outsourcing. We work for someone that just tells us what to do. We lose that information. Yeah. So I wish, as you go into the job market, I wish you go try to work with people you admire, solve hard problems, and identify what can you solve at scale, and then go do a company. Yeah. It's the most interesting thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This was the end of our panel. I don't know if anyone has questions for Luís, for Cristina, for Celso.
I have a question that is actually two questions in one. And I think it's going to be really interesting because you both have very different experiences. Someone high up in a company who has come somewhat recently to Portugal, someone who has built a company here, and someone who's CEO of a very well-established company here. My question is, as someone with a technical background, if you want to make meaningful change, what should you do? Should you aim to start a startup? Should you try to join a big tech company and start making meaningful change there? Should you get a PhD? What should you aim for first? And the follow-up to that is it really harder, as we've been hearing and as we've talked about, to start a company in Portugal specifically versus, say, the United States? I tend to agree more with Christina's hopeful perspective that regulation is good and Europe is trying its best, but I'm interested in your opinion.
I'll cover that last part and then I'll pass the mic. I think starting a company is challenging regardless of where you are. I think there's money available to fund companies that have an interesting problem to solve. And whatever you do, if you do it right, investors will come, you will progress at a tech company, you can become CEO, you choose it. But whatever you do it right. Excellence in whatever.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you can do it anywhere, not if it's a startup or a big company. I mean, I was called an entrepreneur in Portugal for 20 years, and it was always strange because I've been with the same company for 20 years. And I was inside a big telco, and people would still call me an entrepreneur. I don't know why. But I think the reason why is because I was trying to do something meaningful, and I was trying to innovate, and it felt like a startup inside a big company. So I think what's important is what Cristina was saying, which is find the group of people you want to work with and believe in the company that you decide to work with. I think that's what's really important. And companies need that because companies are made of people. And again, when we talk about the culture of a company, that is nothing. That is just the result of the people that work there. It's just the result of the people we decide to work with. So it is important for the companies to have people that believe in the mission, believe in the goal, in what they're building. So I think that's what you, looking for a job or looking for a way to change the world with your work, should think about.
I was also in that side of the room 30 years ago, and I thought I was going to do a PhD in physics, but then here I am talking as a CEO of Vodafone. I also was an entrepreneur for some time. I founded a company in biotech. And I can tell you that if I can give you an advice is follow your passion. If you think you have a huge passion, you think you have a great idea how to solve a problem, maybe you should pursue that as something. If you don't know what to do, don't feel afraid. Maybe you need to experiment more things. Maybe you need to work in some place. Then you learn more about what you really love. But really do whatever you really like to do. Not just to make money, but really something that you like to do. That's the only advice I can give.
Okay. So I had a question as well, which is like you mentioned that we have a lot of big companies coming to Portugal. We have Cloudflare with like 400 people, and Vodafone. You mentioned like there was 1,500 people now. But I think the general trend among young people and very specialized young people leaving universities is still that they're looking outwards. So do you think, like in terms of the government's approach to this problem? And like the Portugal's general direction, is it in a positive direction? Like, are we doing enough to stop? Because we've had like tax reforms for younger people as well. So, are we doing enough to stop people from leaving?
Well, it's a. Should I start?
Yeah, you can start.
It's a very good question as well. I think it's one of the issues we had in the past and now in the present is we call brain drain in what you're describing. There's a huge percentage of recent graduates that go and find jobs in other places, not just Portugal. But there's also a trend where there's more people also coming back to Portugal. And there's also an ability to attract people to come to Portugal to work in very specialized, highly skilled technical jobs. So if you ask me if the government is worried, probably you should ask the question to the government. But I do think they are worried. Myself as a Portuguese, I'm worried. I worked 10 years abroad, then I came back, actually 12 years. I do think that there's an attractive policy to try to bring people in, maybe to make people stay, maybe not as attractive as it could be. But at the same time, I do think that Portugal has a lot of aspects that makes an attractive value proposition in the end. But also think that, for example, if everyone wants to experiment, have maybe experience of working abroad for some time, and that's possible. Also, being based in Portugal and working also for with opportunities to work for some time abroad internationally with assignments. So I do think that there's a lot of opportunities these days, more than existed 10 or 20 years ago, being based in Portugal.
I think, of course, the government should be worried, and I think there's a few things that they're trying to do. But what will make you stay in Portugal is finding a very good job opportunity, a company that you like, that challenges you intellectually, that pays you good money, and where you can add a lot of value. So I think what I like to think is we need to be the ones creating those opportunities, right? And the more, of course, these multinationals are coming to Portugal and creating like a lot of opportunities for other people. It's an amazing way of like having a very interesting challenge, working from Portugal, making good money. But I mean, at Talkdesk, I started Talkdesk with my co-founder. Now the company is like 1,500 people. Like, it's a very good way to create impact for the country. We pay a lot of taxes. We created a lot of opportunity. Like my last company, Cleverly, that was acquired by Zendesk. Zendesk has now 150 people in Portugal. Very under the radar, but quite significant. And a big part of the machine learning team building the AI for Zendesk, they're all in Lisbon. So we can also be part of, we shouldn't wait for the government to fix the problem entirely, because that's never going to happen. I think we need to create more companies, more opportunities, because that's the only way we will make people make more money, create more value, and find opportunities locally. Mainly, I think startups are probably a very good way for you to find a good career opportunity. Like, I'm not saying Vodafone doesn't have interesting challenges, but I think in the last couple of years, startups also became a very interesting thing for technical talent to join.
All's been said.
Yeah.
We have flashing lights.
Yeah, we have flashing lights. How are we with time? Time to wrap up, or is there time for one more question?
We have time for one more question.
Yeah. So I think this. Can you combine the two questions into one?
Mine is really short. It's just about the defense and the potential for development of startups and companies.
In mine, I'm not a journalist, but there was a reunion in France, I don't know if 2 days ago or something, that Emmanuel Macron said that Europe should leap forward, take a step forward towards AI in Europe. And comparing to DeepSeek in China and OpenAI Meta in US. And my question is regarding this position. What do you think, if this happens, do you think this will impact evenly or just briefly on our companies in Europe? As a tech leader, for example, of Vodafone.
Okay. Tough questions.
I think what's going on in Europe, it's a lot about global geopolitics. And AI is one piece of the puzzle where there is a fight of dominance around what governments, people believe are strong strategic assets for the future of the countries. Therefore, I think the statement that you are referring to has to be seen in that context. A fight between controlling resources or technologies, and that's one aspect. In the context where you see United States being a little bit of a different player than it has been in the last 50, 70 years, in fact. On the second question on defense, yes, it's one of the big opportunities. We do have a few companies also in Portugal, also doing very advanced technologies in that area. And I mean, technology impacts everything, but now because we are seeing a more difficult situation where you see wars in different places, but prospect of even more happening and people want to invest more in defense, technology is a key part, and therefore I think there's a big opportunity definitely in this area.
Yeah. All good? All set. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you around. Yeah.
A special thank you to our guests. It was a very insightful and very fantastic discussion. And now we're gonna pick the winner for this session. And the winner is Ricardo Fernandes.